Hello and good evening and welcome to the RunAway show. It's my pleasure to have and introduce to you a man who actually needs no introduction, Vivek Singh, Joint Managing Director of Procam and the organizer of some of India's leading and most popular races with runners. Welcome, Vivek. I hope you're doing well this evening.
Thank you, Gauri. Such a pleasure to be on the RunAway show. And yes, I'm doing very well by the grace of God. Yes, thank you.
Lovely to hear. I'm looking forward to chatting with you today. And of course, there's a whole lot of people who are very eagerly awaiting, what you might have to say about the upcoming races, etc. But we're going to get to that. I think the first thing that I was really interested in asking you, and I usually do this with all of my guests, is sort of follow their own running journey. I think now, is it your 36th year with Procam, or am I right?
Procam started in 1988. So yes, Anil and me founded the company together. So we are in our 32nd year. Yes.
32nd year. Wow. So you've given 32 years of your life to the company, and I'm just curious to know, how did this whole attraction for sports started? What kind of sports do you like to play, and how did you get into running personally?
So running is the mother of all sports. So that has been something which is part and parcel of our life. We've always been sport oriented. I had a brief stint with rugby as well, and I also made it to the All India Southeast Asian tournament in Calcutta, but I had shoulder injuries and could not play beyond 1 year. So, but sport has always been a part of our life. We've always wanted to stay active. We have cycled, we have swum, we have run. And and for my brother, even more than me, actually, for him, sport is his life. So I think somewhere earlier, he decided that he didn't want to go to work. And I think the only way he could not go to work is if he founded something which had sport at its heart and core, and then he could give it all that he had without having to actually go to work. So I think that's worked. And in 1988, we actually started Procam International. We started with tennis because we had first-hand knowledge of tennis. Anil was ranked in the country in tennis as a junior, and we did tennis events all over the country, and we did tennis tournaments, in a big way, actually, in those days, in a very big way. And for the first 10 years, we were very tennis centric. We did other events as well, but we did big tennis events for the first 10 years of Procam's journey. So that's 1988 to 1998. And great memories, Gauri, because there was no sports management. There was no industry called sports management.
Right.
So, yeah, everything was new. Everything was pioneering. Everything was first time. I remember we were doing the Indian Open tennis, which we did consecutively for a few years in Mumbai. And there was no reference point for our vendors and suppliers. In any case, the vendors and suppliers, when there is no industry, there is no vendors and suppliers, right? So actually we went to mandap decorators and wedding decorators, and we said, listen, we need to create a stadium. And we used to show them pictures of Wimbledon and say, we need to create a stadium like this in Mumbai. So it's been an amazing journey where I would say the sports management, the professionalization, and the actual coming together of an industry called sports management, we have had a ringside view, and Procam has been there since the beginning of that industry.
Fantastic. But tell me, Vivek, what kind of, I'm especially asking you that because today Procam is, I know you're very big with the other sports, but you're literally identified with running. And you organize 4 of the country's best races. Tell me a little bit about your own running journey. What is your favorite running distance? And tell me about what is your favorite race?
Well, are you talking of my favorite race in India? Are you talking my favorite race anywhere in the world?
Anywhere in the world.
Okay, so my own personal running journeys, I enjoy running, but I run shorter distances normally. I run 5, 8, 10 kilometers normally. I've just done one full marathon, and that was absolutely memorable. So I was fortunate to be able to do the the 2010 Athens Classic Marathon, which happened to be the 2500th anniversary of the original run by Fairpedis from the town of Marathon to Athens. And, it is something, it's a crazy story actually, Gauri. I was training for that marathon. We had signed up months in advance. And I normally take the flight of stairs. We live on the seventh floor. I take the flight of stairs up and down. That's just a normal
Mhm.
habit for me. And while taking the flight of stairs down on my way to work in the morning, I slipped and fell headlong.
Wow.
I was lucky that I got away with a very a numbing pain in my right elbow. I didn't know what else to do. I came back home, sat for some time, and then went back to work. And there I realized once about an hour had passed, I could not lift a single pen. I could not lift a pen or pencil. So I knew there
Wow.
was a problem. I went to the doctor, and sure enough, I had a hairline fracture in my elbow. What that means is that my elbow was taped up, my running came to an end, and with 6 weeks to go to the Athens Classic Marathon in November, it was pretty much done and dusted for me. I also happened to be the first elected member of the first elected board member of AIMS.
Yes, absolutely.
So with the Athens Classic Marathon, we had our board meeting. So I had to travel, but of course, running and my arm was fine by then. I could move it, but running was zero.
Mm.
And Sangeeta, my wife, knows my nature, so she warned me. She said, "Listen, you've done zero practice, zero training. Your arm is just out of a sling. Don't you dare attempt to run." I said, "It's impossible. How can I even think of running? I've gone down from training to minus. Plus, my arm is just out of a sling. I'm happy I can make it to Athens for the meeting and all the whole, the entire. It is such an amazing time that year, 2010, because the 2500th anniversary being celebrated. So I said, there's no question. So anyway, I land up in Athens, and the board meeting starts on a Thursday morning. And there's so much energy, there's so much excitement for the 2500th anniversary. It's just magical. The
Yes.
Friday, Thursday turns into Friday. Our board meetings continue. The Friday turns into Saturday. I make it to the expo. My Bibbin, of course, is all lying there because I'd registered months in
Yeah.
advance.
Yeah.
And I said, what do I do with this packet which had the bib and had the pins and had my chip? I said, what do I do with it, man? I mean, so anyway, that night I decided to give it a shot. And the next day I was at the start line. It was painful, it was slow, but I completed my first full marathon in 2010, and it was sheer magic.
I can so believe it. I can still feel it in the way that you are narrating it. I feel, yeah, I mean, running has that, and your first marathon is special. And I can see in your case, it was really incredibly special. So
Incredible.
we're going to move a little bit towards home ground because, of course, Mumbai Marathon is, the most favorite marathon of the people of this country. And I think your first race took place in the year 2004.
Yes.
And when we chatted the last time, you mentioned to me that you started with 18,000 people. From then until this year, you've actually upped it to 55,000, almost 55,500 people. And it just seems like an incredible thing. It's our cities are really not equipped to handle races, and you've literally seen the landscape from 2004 to 2020. Tell me a little bit about what are the changes that you've really seen in terms of, organizing, and what does it take to organize a race like this? It's like um, 55,500 people. It just, the number itself sounds ridiculous. How much time goes into planning? What is the logistical demands of something like that?
So, the first one took us good about 14, 15 months, 16 months of planning was the first one. But then, of course, that gets crunched every year. And now, in about, we plan the 6 months is when we launch. We launch it in July, and the race is in January, because people need to know that they're in, and people need to train for a full marathon. So, but I think the challenge is something incredible, because you need to get so many different agencies, you need to get so many different people, senior people, to work together to deliver a marathon. It's when you say the Mumbai Marathon, there are so many agencies at the back working to make one event a success. And I remember when we were presenting to the government in 2003 for the 2004 marathon, it was called the Standard Chartered Mumbai Marathon at that time. I remember the traffic commissioner of Mumbai, was completely flabbergasted when I was asking for road closures for 6 hours, just 6 hours. And he was flabbergasted. And I could understand and see the pain on his face. He says, we have a very clear manual. And for the President of India, I do a 2-kilometer rolling road closure. You're asking me for 6 hours of Mumbai's roads? Who are you? Because in my manual ends at the President of India. There is no other higher authority that I have. And I have a protocol for the President of India, and that is this protocol. Now you're saying 6 hours, Mumbai roads, thousands of people running. I mean, that's not there. So who are you? But the government has been fabulous, and thanks to them, the Mumbai Marathon happens each year. And it's been a really magical journey of belief. So if you need the two most important ingredients that you need to conduct an event like a marathon, is oodles of self-belief and tons of God's grace. I mean, if you want, everything else is secondary. You have these two, you're going to get off the starting blocks.
Well, I know you're really spiritual, Vivek. So I'm going to come back to that question a little later, but I'm still going to stick with the race. Tell me, how many volunteers get involved with the Tata Mumbai Marathon each year? How many people do you really have, helping out? Because an event of that magnitude, there's hydration, there is finishing, there is of course the Procam team, but there's obviously, like, how many heads and hands go into organizing that race?
More than heads and hands, because that's available on the internet. Let me tell you about how we treated the event, because that's important for your viewers. How many heads, how many hands they can find out, and whatever figures I'll have, I'm happy to share. But more importantly,
sure,
we never, from day one, we never treated this as another event.
Okay.
And I think that's important, because Anil and me always took the Mumbai Marathon as a movement, like a Quit India movement or like a big movement. We treated this event as a movement. And from day one, we were clear that it has to become a movement. And the reasons for this are many. A, our belief. B, we had been in sport for about 15 years. About 15 years by then, we had already been invested in sport. And C, we saw something in London, which was the inspiration for us, the London Marathon. We saw something in London that actually made us, realize that we had something more. So we had gone to London, we had the connection, so we had the accreditation, we were near the start line, we could see things too. And rather than seeing how many volunteers and how many drink stations and how many medical stations, I was amazed by something that I saw. We saw people who were regular, ordinary people like you and me, like our parents and grandparents, like our children and grandchildren. And we saw those people on the start line looking up at the clock, looking down on their wrists onto whatever watch they had worn. But we saw a look in their eyes which just said that for the next 5, 6, 7 hours, I'm not your mother, I'm not your father, I'm not your lawyer, I'm not your doctor, I'm a marathoner.
Right.
I, I have been training for the last several months to finish this race in a certain time. And if I do that, I am home. I have achieved something. I could not believe this. I'd seen that look. I'd been to
Right.
sport events from Wimbledon to the US Open to golf to everything, and we had seen that look. It was a look which professional sportsmen have in their eyes before an event. It's a look of a zone. You get into a sporting zone.
Right. Right.
I had seen that look, but I had not seen it in a common man's face. So we said, what is this event that can turn somebody into a zone, a sporting zone, which only a professional sportsman understands? What is it that can make, what is an event that can give me 40,000 winners on a single day? Because the
Right. Right.
joy, the triumph, the elation that they have is more or equal to the ones that the Kenyans and the Ethiopians have on standing on that podium.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it is. I don't see any other sport which is as inclusive and also as participative. So, what you're saying is absolutely true. Every person becomes an athlete. And I think also over time, it's kind of become like, the fact that you're just finishing, right? Timing is important for certain people. Getting to the start line, every person has their own goal, and I just think it's fabulous. As a runner, I see that myself. So what you're saying completely resonates with me. Going to the
That
the fact.
inspired us to actually treat it not like an event, Gauri, but as a movement.
Right,
And
right,
that inspired us to actually set 5 pillars in the ground.
right,
In so day one, we set charity, pride, prestige, health, fitness, and
right,
Indian boon to Indian athletics in the ground. Now, we had not seen anything like this, but
right.
we set the pillars in the ground before we could actually see something. So that's what I mean by treating it like a movement and not an event.
Yeah, and I think the fact that you now have, if I remembered right, and I read this somewhere, you at the year that you started, or maybe I think about maybe 10 to 12 years ago, there were about 8 to 10 marathons, and now there are about 800 marathons that actually take place in India, and I think that's really like a testimony of the movement that's kind of fueled by the races that you organize. But what also happens is that when a sport comes to the size that marathon running has come into, you have more and more people kind of interested in getting there, and I feel like now there is a huge exodus of people, of runners who actually want to organize marathons, etc. So, as an entrepreneur, I'm interested in hearing from you on what advice would you have for people who want to get into marathon organizing? What's like, one or two things that you'd like to say to people who want to get into this business?
So I would say, think of another line of business. It's
Okay,
very hard work, and
right,
there are easier ways to make money. I
right.
assure you all. So unless you are very passionate about the cause and committed to the cause, believe me, there are easier ways to make money in sport than organizing marathons. It's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of
Yeah.
convincing. It's a lot of exposure that you will go through. So on a lighter note, I would say pick something else to do.
Yeah, and I think if I may add, Vivek, and correct me if I'm wrong here. I think what you've said is absolutely true, but there's also the financial angle that now it looks like you really have to have the kind of scale to do profitable marathon operations. Is that correct?
Absolutely, because there are no shortcuts that you can take. You're dealing with people. You're not dealing with 11 sportsmen or 2 sportsmen like tennis. You're dealing with 30, 40, 50,000 people, and there are no shortcuts that you can take. So you can't say that, my sponsorship is X, so I will cut my coat according to that cloth. There is no
Yeah,
coat, there is no cloth. You need to do everything that you need to do. So
yeah, yeah.
financially, it's a huge exposure that you will take. There are other exposures that you will take. So, great if you want to do it, but if you really want to do it, only then. Otherwise, there are easier ways, I'm sure, to make money in sport.
Yeah, I think yeah, like it's interesting to see, this whole landscape change. I think it will continue to change in the next 5 to 7 years as we have more players coming in and more players leaving. And I feel, over time it'll really become apparent who has the real ability to actually execute events of this magnitude. Um, and we've all sort of been impacted. My company, for example, Active Holiday Company, the two things that we really depend on is travel, and the other, of course, is mass events of the nature of the races that you organize. Except that we do work which is related with international marathons, and the current situation of COVID has impacted event organizers such as yours very, very severely around the world. 2020, I think, is unprecedented in all levels. How has this whole situation impacted Procam? And tell me a little bit about, what's really going on with this. Uh, I feel like there perhaps were some opportunities. How has Procam actually dealt with this situation?
So sport in general has been impacted hugely, and it will take some time for sport to really come back to its pre-COVID levels. But there are advancements in technology. There are, the good news is that the people have actually taken a bigger and made a bigger commitment to fitness. I'm seeing more people get out there, run, take responsibility for their health and fitness, make time for their exercise. I'm seeing more people take to participating, whether it's via cycling, running, walking, training and from home using a host of apps and trainers online. So the good news is that the entire treadmill that we were on work, life, and social commitments came to a standstill. With
Correct.
that coming to a standstill, your health, your exercise became a priority, which is fabulous. I think more new people have joined into the running, walking, cycling mainstream than ever before in any year. So
Absolutely.
that's the good takeaway. The other one is that it's impossible to do large scale participatory events right now. So we are our own company Procam is working with the government. We've requested the government for their blessings, support, and permissions to do in this year 2020 to do an elite race for Delhi, an elite race for Bangalore, and have the country run as one with that elite race through a digital app platform. So you have an elite race, you have the television, you have the stars, you have the media, you have the route, you have the road closures, and you restrict that to a certain number of elites, Indian and international, and the rest of the country supports that, lends its shoulder to that spirit, and runs digitally via a dedicated app. So that's what we're working on for 2020.
This is fantastic. And do you see, the same thing kind of continuing to Mumbai? Are you looking at, perhaps including some of the local population through like sub-elites? Is that a possibility? So, I have to tell you, like when I told people that I was talking to Vivek Singh from Procam, my phone just started buzzing. What's happening with Mumbai Marathon? So this is the question that's on everybody's mind. And I can see lots of people logged in. That's what they want to know.
And fair
TM.
enough, fair enough, and it's a fair question. So right now, I don't want to commit or comment on Mumbai because the ground situation is changing. Maybe we could be much better off by December, much
Right.
better off. And if we
Yeah.
are much better off, then Mumbai Marathon, whether it's in January or January or a slightly delayed date, may be able to have a certain number of on-ground participation.
Fantastic.
But that's questions that we can't answer, or I don't think anybody can answer today.
Yeah,
But till,
I
till
agree with you. Yeah.
but till 31st December, we're seeing our two big races, our Bangalore race, which got postponed from May, happening in December. I mean, hopefully happening. We see Delhi happening next month end. Hopefully, again, we are waiting for certain key sanctions from the government. But they
Right.
will happen in a elite format and a digital format.
This is fantastic. This is a fantastic update, Vivek, and I know that a lot of runners are going to be, really happy about it. I know that some runners will be happier, if there is a little bit more inclusion. But I understand what you're saying. And I think if you actually look at all the world-class races, they're probably using a combination of this elite as well as virtual, right? London Marathon just did that. I think. Yeah, I think actually London probably was the only one who did both, because Boston, kind of just did the virtual. They didn't do the elite. But I think this is fantastic news. And yeah, you're right. It's impossible to predict. I think we all just need to hang in there and wait and see how things are going. You
Yes.
mentioned to me that you are. We spoke about this very much earlier in the conversation today, where you told me about your position with AIMS, and I was going to bring that up with you. So you had the honor of being the first elected, or rather the distinction of being the first elected board member at AIMS. I just want to know a little bit about that experience that you went through.
AIMS is a wonderful body. They're doing a lot for running, and great people on it. Paco is our president. He's a Spaniard, and he puts on the Valencia Marathon, which is a very, very reputed and respected race. We had a
Right.
great 4 years. I was on the board of AIMS. I had a great time. The whole idea of AIMS is how to support the organizing committee. How can we ensure that measurements are done right down to absolute perfection? How can race organizers use the AIMS website, use the AIMS knowledge base to deliver a better experience for their participants? The whole aspect, what I loved about AIMS is their dedication and commitment to growing the sport, to reaching out to the community, to making sure they have the right experience, to making it as safe and enjoyable as possible for the runners. I remember when I was on board of AIMS, we had 250 members, and we kept growing that every year. Today, the AIMS membership is, I think, crossed 500 easily. And these are not just members who click, they are members who pay an annual membership fee. So they
Right.
want something out. Otherwise, they won't just click on and say we are members. So we've crossed 500 paying members. And that's a great tribute to the running fraternity and the organizing fraternity.
Right. Right. And do you kind of see that your position with AIMS sort of had some kind of an influence on running in India? Would you say that it kind of helped you to improve or change some things in India?
So Procam and Procam's events have been a beacon of light and hope for people. So all the innovations that we put here, we see them quickly, and very nicely copied by other races. And why not? That's how we are all an ecosystem.
Well,
And
that's the cost of being a leader, right?
and thanks to AIMS, I got a lot of inputs from a lot of race promoters, because you meet hundreds of race promoters and organizers, and you pick up nuances, how they are addressing certain things, because there's so many things to address in a participative sporting event. And every year you need to find, when I go out and I meet people socially, they say, oh, so now it's the 17th year of Mumbai Marathon, everything must be on autopilot. I say rubbish. You have to work from the ground up every year. Is your
Yeah.
route okay? Are your permissions there? Is the way you're looking at it in terms of experience for participants okay? So it's such a live thing. It's like a live, living, breathing entity. The
Yeah,
Mumbai,
yeah.
Delhi, Bangalore, Calcutta events are just a living, breathing entity. So, and at Procam, we treat it that way. We don't treat it at, okay, get out that Excel sheets and let's do it. Because every year you're enhancing something, you're tweaking something, you're making something better. It's amazing. And you get so much feedback from the ground. The participants are now exposed globally. They want
Yeah.
certain things. They want certain technology. They want certain conveniences. They want a certain kind of start and finish. So there's a lot of expectation you're also managing from the ground feedback.
Oh yeah, I mean you're right in terms of the fact that it's kind of like a very demanding thing. But the thing that I've noticed with you, Vivek, and I'm saying this because I've watched you a few times, whether it's the TCS 10K or whether it's the TMM. I sort of see you as this very hands-on um, person. Like, I feel your management style is kind of like, you literally are on ground during the race, and you know what's going on, and you're talking to people. And I just find, despite the size of the event that you do, and the kind of responsibilities that you might have, I just feel you're kind of completely involved all the time. And I think at this point, I want to talk a little bit about, your management and your leadership style. You're obviously a very, very loved leader, right? At Procam, people, look at you and say very positive things. Um, and also I feel like you're considered sort of an all-rounder, right? You have things that you deal with internally as well as externally, because obviously a business like this requires a whole lot of uh, dealing with people from outside, as well as the coordination and things like that. Tell me a little bit about your personal vision for yourself and Procam, or rather, what values are important to you that kind of helps you to be that kind of boss?
So it's difficult for one, for us, for myself to say the same thing. It's better if some other people had to say it. But yes, teamwork is important to me. Sincerity to the task at hand, integrity. These are values that you keep going back to. I mean, all the business tools are fine, but finally, it's these values that you instill in your team, that you exemplify with by your day-to-day actions, that take you to success. Otherwise, it's very difficult. And today, the core team at Procam is 100 people. We engage with hundreds more of heads and subheads, and then thousands more of volunteers. One Mumbai Marathon will have something like 3,000 people volunteering, maybe 400 to 500 heads and subheads, and 100 people core Procam team. That's a lot of people to deal with to get everything right for one day or one week or one month. So it's a lot of responsibility to keep everything
Vivek, do I have you still? I don't hear you. I'm just wondering, have we lost the link?
I think that's what's going to make a difference is the values that you see, and people have to believe in you. They have to
Right.
take a leap of faith. And it's not just it's not just the people who you work with. It's your sponsors and partners. Gauri,
Right.
what do we have? We have slides in a presentation. We have a PowerPoint presentation. Everything he's going to, the sponsor or partner who is going to commit to, is going to see months later. Where is it? Where is that faith coming from? It's coming
Right.
from what he believes in Procam, what he believes in you. Because I have nothing, I have
Yeah.
no product to share. I will just paint a vision. Thousands of people will run. The chief minister will flag off at one end, the governor will flag off at the other end, television will have a helicopter. It's just a painting of a vision. And he
True.
has to believe that, because when you leave the room, he's just got 20 slides of a PowerPoint presentation. He said, I'm going to commit all this money to 20 slides. There's no product for him to see. So
Right.
it is something, it's your energy, your passion, your belief, your integrity, your sincerity that comes through. And that comes through not just to your volunteers and your team, but it comes through to your sponsors, your partners, your stakeholders.
Vivek, I have a surprise for you at this point. Uh, just give me 1 second. I have
Hi,
Ashish here from your team, since you
hi,
mentioned to me.
Vivek.
Hey, that is
Hi.
the surprise.
Welcome to the show, Ashish. So Vivek was
Hey,
just asking the last question. You know what he said? He says, well, I'm not really the right person to talk about this. Maybe you should have somebody else answer this. So I'm going to shoot this question to you. You've been working with Vivek for a while. And actually, you know, Ashish, I should tell you this, I should tell Vivek this as well. I actually did a little bit of homework talking to people about you before I got you on this show. And the reason why, you know, I asked Ashish if he would join us on this show was precisely because everybody had such lovely things to say about you. And I thought it'll be just interesting to have Ashish talk a little bit about, you know, your leadership style, right? So Ashish, I'd love to hear what you have to say about working with Vivek.
firstly, thank you, Gauri. Thank you for having me over. It's really a pleasure. And hi, Vivek.
Hi. That is a big surprise for me. I didn't know you were anywhere connected with it.
No, this is Gauri's idea, and it's lovely me being here. So Gauri, I have actually known Vivek for many, many years. My association more closely with Procam has been with the last 2.5, 3 years. But I've known Vivek for, I think, what, Vivek, 18 plus years in multiple capacities.
Yes.
You know, we were associates and business associates in one way. We were friends. We've been part of, the Art of Living Foundation as committee members. And then in the last 2, 3 years, being part of the Procam team. So, I can see Vivek from multiple aspects. And I think when I talk about his style, his leadership style, it's not only from a work perspective. I'd like to extend it to multiple hats that Vivek wears.
Sure.
So there are of course many things. I think you touched upon his hands-on style. He's being an all-rounder. There are about 3 or 4 things that stand out particularly for me. One is being extremely purpose-led, right? And look, in my career I've been with many organizations, and seeing Procam closely, and Vivek really leads from the front, is something that is commendable, right? And he hasn't talked in this show yet about Procam being a platform where almost 500 crores of charity has been raised over the last 18 years. So I just want to mention that. But I also want to mention that at a day-to-day level, to be able to inject purpose in what each of his team members do, what Procam does, is actually a great place to be. I mean, recently, the organization conducted an entire new property called as the Sunfeast India Run as One, which was an idea that the germ of it came during the pandemic, right? And the first lens of Vivek was always that we want to be able to raise funds for livelihoods, because that is really the cause that needs all the support at this point of time. And somewhere I think all commercial models, etc., were followed from there, but that was really the single-minded starting point. And it's great to be part of a team and with a person who can be so purpose-led, because I think in many ways we are all also seeking some purpose and wanting to contribute. So Procam pretty much gives that platform for all of us to do that. The second is really Vivek, your positive mindset, orientation, forward-looking approach. And again, these are not just words, right? I mean, in a business such as ours, which is so dynamic, so intense, and a lot of our races happen back to back within a few months and so on, it really requires someone to be able to think very positively, convert every situation into an opportunity, make whatever is in front of you happen, and yet actually it be part of a longer term vision. So I think, the aspects of being extremely positive, calm, that's his personality really, and being very forward looking, very constructive, is again something that we see in him, and a lot of people are also attempting to live that. I think that's really the culture has gone beyond Vivek into now the DNA of the enterprise. And I would also talk about his democratic style of leadership, and the aspect of having equal opportunity. And a lot of people, I mean, you may be from a certain function, but if you have a point of view about something else, there is a voice, there is a platform for you to come out there and sort of say it. Now that's not something that happens in every organization, right? So I think it's been a pleasure working with Vivek, and yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for all of these insights. So I think the thing is just that I feel a lot of runners, actually the running community is made up of all kinds of people, right? And many of them are actually entrepreneurs. And I feel that even though this is the RunAway show, the reason why I wanted to have you on the show, Ashish, and have you talk about the leadership style that Vivek follows is basically because I really believe that what Procam has created through TMM, etc., is something which is, envious in a nice way, right? And I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs who are also runners who are following this show can kind of learn from what's really fueled that growth, right? What kind of personalities really fuel that growth. So I really appreciate your coming on this show, and I hope you like the surprise, Vivek.
Yeah, I loved it. It was really a surprise. So thank you, Ashish. Thank you, Gauri.
Thank you, Gauri.
Ashish.
Vivek and I work very closely, but we needed the RunAway show for me to express Vivek's leadership style. So
I'm so glad. I'm so glad that I've brokered this. And once again, thanks for joining us. I'm going to go back to my chat with Vivek. I have a couple of long questions for him, and then we go on to the rapid fire. Really appreciate your time, Ashish.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay,
so I can see you're still smiling.
Yeah, that was a nice surprise. Thank you.
I'm glad you liked it. So we have, we've talked a little bit about your involvement with Art of Living, and I think you're fairly deeply involved with the work that you do with Art of Living. I'm curious to know how this whole thing started. Vivek, how did you get into Art of Living, get involved with this?
It's been quite a magical journey on that front, because one cannot plan something like this, right? You can plan, you can't plan your spiritual growth. You have to be very fortunate, you have to be very blessed to find a guru, to find a path, and then you have to be blessed and fortunate to be able to stay on the path. There are many people who find a path, but then they cannot stay on it and they leave. I have been fortunate and blessed not only to find a path, not only to find a master, but also to be able to stay on it for several years now. And that staying on it, that commitment to the path, that following of the daily practice changes you on so many different levels. And that's what's happened in my case. There has been a change, a perceptible change in the way I approach situations, in the way situations come to me, in the way people come to me. And all that is based in your foundation, in your spiritual foundation. I mean, many masters have written that you're nothing but spiritual beings having a physical experience in life. We all have heard these things before, but very few people are able to experience it and live it. And I've been fortunate, thanks to the Art of Living and thanks to Gurudev Sri Sri, that I'm able to live it. And it is actually the foundation from which you approach all situations and issues in life. So it's not just related to your work, your business. It's related to your friends. It's related to your family. It's related to your personal aspects. All these things are covered when by the spirit and by you focusing and giving some attention to your spiritual journey as well. So yes, I've been fortunate and blessed, and that's the long and
So
short of
I'm
it.
curious to know, Vivek, how many years have you been following the art of living? How do you remember how long? How long?
Yeah, almost 19 years.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
So
In a
you
few months
you
it'll be
follow the
all,
kriya and you wake in the you meditate every
yeah, yeah,
day. Yeah,
yeah, yes, yes,
that's,
of course,
that's
yes.
fantastic. That's fantastic. Um,
Our guru said something which other entrepreneurs will probably connect to, and he said this
sure.
very succinctly. And he said that everybody should meditate. Everybody on this planet should meditate. That's a wealth we have been born with as humans, and it's something which should be used. And he said that everybody should meditate for at least half an hour. Just 20 minutes to 30 minutes of meditation a day is very good, unless you're very busy. If you're very busy, then you must meditate for an hour.
Oh, wow.
And there is such depth in that statement, because if you're very busy, which means you need greater dynamism on the outside, you need greater and deeper rest on the inside. So if you're not very busy, then 20 minutes of meditation is fine. But if you're very busy and you're going through a very busy and trying phase in your life, then you need 40 minutes to 60 minutes of meditation. Because the more dynamic you want to be on the outside, you need to have that much rest and strength on the inside. So when you actually understand that statement and live it, it changes your entire perspective of life.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine. I mean, I would not have expected to hear this. That the harder you're working, the more you need to do this. Definitely, there's something for me to take from there personally, for sure. Tell me a little bit about the kind of travel that you enjoy, Vivek. This is the Runaway show, so you cannot not have travel as part of it. Tell me how often do you take off, and what does traveling mean to you?
So I don't take off as often as I should. I should be taking off a little more than I do. That's one. Second is, travel means a lot to me, but it has to be a certain kind of travel. So, I told my family, actually, Sangeeta and me, planned this together. And we told our family we're going to Spain for a holiday last year, which is, around of summer 2019. And the family was greatly excited till they got to know that we had actually planned 100-kilometer walk over 4 days called the El Camino, which is
Yes.
absolutely amazing. It's an amazing pilgrimage route. It's one of the oldest pilgrimage
Yeah.
routes in the world. And you walk from you walk in the majority is in Spain. It's in north west of Spain, and we did that, and it's an amazing trek. And so that's the kind of holiday for me. It has to have a little more purpose than just going and seeing places. Of course, you need to, but either you participate in a run, or you participate in a cycling event, or you participate in a trek, or you go there for a certain festival to live the spirit of that festival. So for me, travel is how deeply can I absorb or integrate into something special.
That's
And
fantastic.
yeah, so we did it. And the kids and Sangeeta had not walked 100 kilometers over 4 days ever in their lives. You have to average about 25 kilometers a day. Some days there's little more uphill. Some days it's just flat. But you have to manage all of that. You have to travel light. You're on the road for 8 to 10 hours. So we did that, and we had a great time in Spain last year.
Yeah. And I have to tell you, Vivek, this year in 2020, I was supposed to do exactly the same trip immediately after London Marathon. And I was doing the route from Porto. I was booked on the route from Porto. And I think, of course, the fact that the races got cancelled and, all of this drama, unwarranted drama unfolded was heartbreaking. But I think the thing that haunts me the most is that I was not able to do the Camino walk this year. So it's a carry forward
Yeah,
item for next year. I'm looking forward to that.
you
So
gotta do it. You gotta love it.
yeah, I'm sure it's going to be life changing. I've read so much about it, and there are books that are written about it, and I'm so looking forward to it. Um, we are almost at the end of the show, Vivek, and I end with a rapid fire. Unfortunately, there's no hamper, but I still need you to attempt the rapid fire as fast as you can.
Right.
You literally need to think on your feet and kind of answer it really quickly because I want the truth. Okay.
Okay.
So my first question to you is, brace yourself, Vivek. My first question to you is, what's your Sunday morning wake up time?
Uh, I get up between 5 a.m. and 5:30, 5 and 6 a.m. most day. I mean, almost every day of the week.
So you don't
So
have
normally
a
it's around
sleep-in
5
day on
a.m.
Sunday.
No, 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 no. If I have, no, no, no. I mean, I enjoy going out. So if I have time, I'll be out there cycling, running, or doing something or the other. So, no, I haven't done a sleep in for a long time.
Okay, my second question is, if Procam could introduce another race, what city would you choose? What city in India would you choose? Or I mean, whatever. What city would you choose for the next Procam race?
I don't have a favorite city. I mean, we'd go anywhere. If we can do Calcutta, Bangalore, Delhi, Mumbai, we'd go practically anywhere. So all cities are good. It's just that the route has to have a charming aspect to it. The city has to have a certain energy to it. But actually, there is any city would work. So we're not
So if
city
you don't
centric.
have like a one city that you say, okay, beyond these four cities, what is the one city that you'd like to go to? You don't really have anything in your mind.
I mean, that's done. Bangalore, Delhi, Calcutta, Mumbai. So beyond this, it's not that I have any favorite city that I would like to go to. But yeah, I mean, you'd love to do something around the Taj Mahal in Agra. It's such an
Yeah.
amazing monument. So can we do something around the Taj Mahal? You'd love to do something for the beautiful festival they have just about 100 kilometers from Bhubaneswar in the lovely fest. I forget the name of the place right now. So it's these kind of highlights that you'd love to do something around. So can you do something around the Taj? Can you do something around some major festivals in India and things like that? Yeah.
Okay.
It's I think called the Lord Jagannath Festival in Puri. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, Puri. Yeah, right. Okay. What retirement age do you have in mind for yourself?
Uh, I think it's to teach. My retirement wish would be to teach and bring and to get more people into the path of knowledge and spirituality.
And do you have anything in your mind in terms of when would you like to do this? How many more years do you
No,
think you for Procam?
no idea. When the calling comes, I'll bounce. It's that simple. No idea when.
Okay, now I need the truth here, Vivek. I want to know between Anil and you, who's the more competitive one?
Oh, both of us are competitive. I mean, there's no other way we could have. Both of us are competitive in our own ways. I don't know in what paradigm do you mean? I mean, but
I
both
mean,
of us are
just
competitive.
competitive. I think real competitiveness really shows out, in things like sports, in business. Like, I'm not gonna let this go, right? So who's like more tenacious? Who's just like I'm gonna fight for this last point. I want to win.
So I think Anil and me both are. Anil still is. I was more. Today I'm less because today I probably would take a little more, different perspective and say, listen, okay, beyond this point, it's better that dispassion kicks in than passion. Because we need to know that in success, you need to have passion, you need to have commitment to your task, and then you need to have dispassion, you need to let go. Because finally it's the surround, it's the universe that brings things to you. So if you hold on too tightly, there's a danger that you're going in a wrong direction. So you need to have passion, otherwise nothing is going to take off on the ground. You need to have
Right.
commitment and hard work behind that passion, And they need to have dispassion. You need to have the ability to let go and let things happen through other people, through other situations. And that's what we say when the universe brings it to you.
Right, that's so true. But I think the point for this one will probably go to Anil if I heard the answer right.
Probably, yes.
Okay, so my last question to you really is about what's future plans for Procam? Vivek, I'm especially asking you that because, I studied entrepreneurial management, and I think there are a lot of companies who kind of stand on that crossroad and talk about, are we going to be a family-owned business, or are we really, and it's always a challenge, like, making that decision, right? Are we going to get professional management from outside? What do you envision as the future of Procam?
It has to be professionally managed. I mean, even if family, and we are very fortunate. My nephew has got involved recently, so great to have him on board. But it has to be professionally managed, professionally led. And even if family were to get involved, they have to have that professional acumen. There's no question about it. The way forward is professional management, and it's not something which is even a choice that, I would lean towards. It's professionally managed. It has to be professionally led.
Fantastic. So enjoyed my time this hour with you. Really appreciate your time. I had a great time listening to you, and like I said, I'd already done a lot of homework talking to your team about you, and I think now the only thing left is for all of us to just go back to our running and our races, and I look forward to that. I've run your event several times, multiple events. I think except for TCS Kolkata, I've done all of them multiple times, and I look forward to that. So a big thank you to Procam for organizing these fantastic races, and look forward to seeing you in person, Vivek.
Thank you for having me on the RunAway show, and thank you, Gauri, and look forward. Wish you all the best.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So on that note, I'm going to say good night to our audience, and have a nice weekend, everybody. We'll see you next Friday. We're going to have Namrata Joshipura, one of India's top fashion designers and an amazing runner. We're going to be talking to her. So we'll see you next week, and good night, everybody. Thank you again, Vivek. Bye.